forward from Auburn, number 34, Charles Barkley. Officials for tonight's game are MC Rush, Steve Shabby, and Nolan Fine.
And there is Paul Westphal, man who finally got a shot as a head coach, and it has all gone so well. He was tabbed as Cotton Fitzsimmons' successor for years. He was a Suns assistant over the years, and he is now the head man. And obviously, things have worked out very well for Paul Westphal. The Phoenix Suns are 28-4 here at home, and the 4 losses have been at the hands of Eastern Conference teams. Earlier, Charles Barkley was asked why the problems with the East.
But that just proves what I think about all the press are morons. I don't understand why teams are concentrating on the East. We haven't won the West yet. That just confirms what I've already knew. Most of the media are nitwits. I'm not even concerned about the East Coast until if we get to the championship series. These people haven't heard of the Seattle Supersonics, the Houston Rockets, and the San Antonio Spurs, and the Portland Trail Blazers. Let's don't worry about the East yet. Let's worry about the West.
Well, John, Charles often makes sense with his varied opinions, but when he starts firing away at the media, as he will do from time to time, it means he doesn't have the answer. It's the easy shot.
No, but he always does have an answer, Marv, and that describes Charles.
It'll be Mark West and Patrick Ewing, and the Knicks control the opening tip.
Well, this beautiful arena is filled with very partisan fans, as you might expect. Charles Smith opens things up for the Knicks, and that's what the Knicks have to do to silence this very noisy place. The Knicks have got to start early, as they did in Cleveland and against San Antonio.
Kevin Johnson setting up against Doc Rivers. And Mark West goes inside. He draws the foul. The basket count and the foul. Now that is the plan of the Phoenix Suns. Mark West, usually not a player looks to go to the offense, in particular early, but they would like to get Patrick Ewing in foul trouble.
Oh, good job by Mark getting Patrick to go off his feet. Mark West averages under 6 points a game, so Ewing shouldn't buy those head fakes next time.
The Knicks and the Suns are tied at 2.
Well, Barkley's got to be kept busy by Charles Oakley on offense. You can see Barkley laying him off him right away.
And here's Smith. Draws the foul. Cedric Ceballos called for the foul. He has been the starter in the absence of Richard Dumas, the outstanding rookie, who is sidelined with a sprained left ankle. He's missed the last 9 games. There is Dumas. And the word is he'll be out at least another week.
A budding star in the NBA has landed in a big way with the Phoenix Suns. Ceballos has done a terrific job, but he is 6'6". This is one of the smaller starting frontline forwards in the NBA, maybe the smallest. Barkley at 6'5", Ceballos at 6'6". Charles Smith has got to stay out of foul trouble. He can have a party tonight.
And as we mentioned on Knicks game night, Greg Anthony remains sidelined by the sprained ankle. He is being called day to day. So Doc Rivers drawing the start once again at point guard. He's matched with Kevin Johnson. Oakley jumps out on a switch. Marley, played by Starks.
Notice how tightly Starks is on Marley. The Knicks know about that three-point shooting.
Marley fires with the shot clock running down. And here's Starks for 3. Rebounded by Barkley.
Bob, I feel this is one of those arenas where the vision is tough for a team that's not used to it. See all those white shirts?
Oh, it counts! And the foul! Charles Barkley with the fling. He was just looking to get the call, a foul in the act, and it went in.
That is the strength of Charles Barkley on display.
And now Barkley completes the three-point play. Charles coming off a strong game of the loss to Indiana on Sunday. 46 minutes, 14 of 27. High man with 38 points. Ewing works his way in. Rebound Oakley. Barkley with the putback. And last touch by West.
Charles can't extend high to the basket, and he feels the strength and jumping ability of Barkley behind him, so he was a little fearful on that follow-up.
Suns 5, the Knicks 4. Rivers for 3. Kept alive by Rivers. Pat Riley says regroup. Ewing sets the pick. Ewing. Yes. The Knicks 6. The Suns 5.
West doesn't want to come out and have Ewing drive around him, so he played it safe, and Patrick's got that jump shot on target these days.
Phoenix Suns, over the last 4 games, have won 2, and they have lost 2. Here's the post-up move by Barkley.
How about Ewing came over to double team, and it didn't mean anything with that slick move that Charles executed.
Following the loss to Indiana, it was pointed out as Ewing puts the move on and draws the foul. It's on West. It was pointed out that the Phoenix Suns were looking ahead to the New York Knicks. They were not paying attention to the fact that the Indiana Pacers were in town. And I talked about it earlier with Paul Westphal. He says he doesn't want to take anything away from the Pacer effort, but yes, there was that possibility. And someone said the Suns were actually looking at tapes of the Knicks even prior to the game against Indiana.
Yes, the Indiana team was staying in our hotel, and the coaching staff was elaborating on that point. Bob Hill, the head coach of Indiana, was a little insulted feeling that way, but he was sure happy at the outcome of that game. Meanwhile, Paul Westphal, there was a story in today's paper, put his team through over a 2-hour practice as a result. I mean, that's big news here. A 2-hour practice is nothing for the Knicks.
Well, in particular on a game day, and yesterday it was supposed to be an optional practice as West gets inside, and instead Westphal called a regular practice. Here's Starks challenging Barkley. Oh, what extension by John Starks to give the Knicks a 3-point lead.
And you know John wanted to dunk it, but he wisely concentrated on the shot execution.
Phoenix Suns very aware of how the Knicks have been able to jump out on their opponents the last 2 games. Cedric Ceballos cuts it to a 1-point lead. You look back last Thursday in Cleveland, the Knicks with that impressive victory, and they got off to the big lead early. Rivers on the recovery, sets up Ewing. Another open jump shot for Ewing. The Knicks lead by 3.
What a play by Rivers, getting that loose ball after Charles Smith bounced it off his foot. What a play.
And this past Sunday, in the game against San Antonio, the Knicks wiped out the Spurs in the early going. The rejection by Ewing, stopping West. Here's Ceballos. 12-11. Knicks with the lead. John Starks went backcourt, front court, then went back, according to the official Nolan Fine. And John dramatically tried to illustrate what he felt he did, but it is a violation. The officials are Nolan Fine, Steve Jabbie, and Ed T. Rush. 4 minutes gone by in the first quarter. The Knicks with a 1-point lead. Here is Barkley. Rebounded by Ceballos. And he hits again. 6 points on 3 out of 3 from the field for Cedric Ceballos.
Ceballos is leaving Charles Smith in the dust. His quickness is winning. He's effective inside at 6'6". That should not be happening against the Knicks.
Oh, pretty move by Rivers. Doc Rivers, like John Starks, playing with a broken nose. Here's Kevin Johnson. Rebounded by Patrick Ewing. The Knicks 14, the Suns 13. Starks for Oakley. Yes. And the Knicks with a 16-13 lead.
Sensational movement of the ball. They're advancing it up court. Oakley got there, and he's got to show that jump shot to Barkley, and he is.
Barkley backing Oakley. Rivers over to help. Nice pass, Ceballos from Johnson. And the Knicks lead by 1.
Well, Charles Smith had every right to look over at Pat Riley after that move, because he's going to start thinking he's going to be on the bench if he doesn't pay closer attention to Ceballos.
Cedric is now 4 out of 4 for 8 points. He's been the starter in the absence of the injured Richard Dumas. Rivers for Smith. Another open shot. Smith could not convert. Oakley missed the putback. He thought he was fouled. And here comes Barkley, accelerating, and draws the foul. Basket won't count. Timeout being called by Phoenix. Foul was called on Charles Smith.
Well, this is the thorn in the side of the Knicks right now. Cedric Ceballos, the last 9 games, 20-point-plus per game, filling in for Richard Dumas, the second leading scorer on this team at 17. What a job. Ceballos on the move. Look at Kevin Johnson. Pass that ball to Ceballos on the move. No attention being paid to this guy. Dumas, by the way, was shooting, look at this, 4 for 4 for Ceballos right now. Dumas was shooting 53%. Ceballos comes in for him the last 9 games, and he's even picked it up further.
Ceballos is not a great shooter, but he is so good on transition, and he can leap. Charles Barkley to the free throw line, a 75% shooter at the line. He's averaging, as you see, 25.5 per game. That's number 5 in the NBA among the leaders in rebounds at 12.5 per game. The Suns 17, the Knicks 16 with 6.5 to go in this first quarter. The Knicks with a road record of 15-14. They have won 8 of the last 11 on the road. They are gunning for their 10th straight win. They've won 20 of the last 23. Doc Rivers trying the 3, comes right back to him, and he's fouled by Marley.
The strategy is clear. As soon as Ewing gets the ball, the NBA Player of the Week is going to be double and triple teamed. He must respond quickly. Also, it wouldn't be bad to fake the pass into Ewing, get the defense to double team, and then find open people. See if they're going to overreact. They seem to be very quick to react to Ewing.
Non-shooting foul, so the Knicks get the new 24. Starks guarded by Ceballos. Ewing.
Good move by him. He reacted quickly, got a good shot.
Here's Barkley splitting through, giving it up to Marley. That's a 3-point attempt. The Suns have not been shooting the 3 effectively recently. 3-on-1, and Rivers puts it down. Rivers from Starks, and the Knicks lead 18-17.
Doc Rivers said after the game the other day in New York, and explaining the Knicks' success of late, he said, "We have confidence in each other." That pass back from Starks demonstrates it.
Mark West out for Dan Marley. And here's West, rejected by Ewing.
Is he a shooter all of a sudden? Those 2 blocks are going to discourage Mark West.
Well, he's trying to get Ewing in the early foul trouble. Ewing thought he had an opening with Oakley. And it will be back to New York ball. Once again, the Suns try to get Cedric Ceballos on the transition. He can run all night. Although he is indicating my fault, being very kind. That pass was overthrown. Knicks doing it off the boards as they did in the earlier meeting at Madison Square Garden. Just under 5 minutes to go. First quarter. The Knicks lead by 1. Charles Smith challenges Mark West, and he was blocked. The foul on West.
Well, the official sees the defensive man moving when the contact is made, and that's a defensive foul. West tried to draw the offensive foul. Nice little pick and roll here. Smith moves in, and you can see West leaning in. There was motion in his body to Charles Smith.
Mark West called for his second. Tom Chambers will check in, replacing West. Charles Smith, a 77% free throw shooter. So West departs 1 out of 4 from the field.
Now an official offensive threat enters the game in Tom Chambers. And look at Charles Smith's numbers over the last 4 games. Terrific. 7 rebounds is also a big number. 16+ points, shooting the ball so well.
The Knicks 19, the Phoenix Suns 17. Shot clock down to 7. Barkley for Chambers. Offensive foul. The outside official, Steve Javy, with the call on Barkley, who tried to clear the way as he fed back to Chambers.
Interesting to watch Charles after that call. No one here agreed with it, but he seemed to agree with the call. He goes crashing into John Starks. No argument from Charles.
Starks with the step.
Tried to jump a little too high to get that shot off.
Barkley to the left hand and beat Oakley again. And thought he was fouled. Now the Knicks on the transition. Starks did well to stay in bounds. Fires a three. Rebound Barkley.
I don't think John Starks feels the court enough to be taking the long one so early.
Starks behind the back for Smith. Nicely done, and the Knicks lead 21-19.
I mean, this is a new arena. You have to get the feel of the place, the rims and the whole setting before you let the three-point bombs go, the long jumpers.
And as you mentioned earlier, John, a tough setting to shoot because as Johnson gives it up, Chambers on the recovery was tied up. Nice play. Tom Chambers tied up with that layup attempt. Here's Anthony Mason replacing Charles Oakley. Leads with a field goal for two.
We pointed out in the first game, Barkley took 28 shots against the Knicks, 11 for 28, 4%. A great deal of that due to Anthony Mason's defense in the latter stages of that game.
Paul Westphal in a discussion with the officials, complaining about a prior call, and now hit with a technical foul. Steve Javy calling the tee on Westphal. He felt that he had prolonged the argument. And Doc Rivers will go to the foul line. He'll shoot the technical. Well, apparently, Scotty, at first it appeared that it was Westphal, but now, according to the public address, Scotty Robertson has been ejected. We'll have to check and see if the technical was on Westphal or Robertson. Scotty Robertson has been around the NBA for some time as an assistant.
Oh, he's an old pro, the epitome of an old pro, and he deflected the attention from Paul Westphal. He offered himself up, it would seem.
So with 3.5 remaining in this first quarter, the Knicks with a 21-19 lead. Patrick Ewing extends to the 4-point advantage. Scotty Robertson, one-time coach of the Detroit Pistons.
That's the advantage of Tom Chambers, his mobility. He took Ewing outside. Ewing's guarding him, and he just sailed in for that layup. That's a tough matchup for Ewing when Chambers goes outside.
The Knicks 23, and the Suns 21 as we come up on 3 minutes remaining in this first quarter. Been a fiery first quarter. Crowd very much into it.
And that's a tough matchup for Chambers because Ewing, as he did last time, can get easy shots inside.
Chambers, air ball. And back come the Knicks. It's a 4-on-2. Good ball movement, opening up Smith. Yes. The Knicks 25, the Suns 21. The Knicks swinging the ball so effectively here in the first quarter.
Well, if you realize the first half of the season, how rare a sequence, as you just described, would happen. They exchanged the ball, and they got the open man. They wore the defense down.
Well, Cedric Ceballos not looking that way, and it will be New York ball. But first, a timeout called by the Suns. The Knicks 25, Phoenix 21.
This great teamwork moment is brought to you by the team of Canon Technology and MCS Service. One is a great reason to buy the other. And the Knicks are into the teamwork as they just demonstrated, passing the ball. Third pass, fourth pass, fifth pass. Ewing finding the open man. Sixth pass, Charles Smith with the short jumper. He held up wisely and hit it. 7 passes to a basket.
Danny Ainge has checked in for the first time. The rookie from Arkansas, the 6'8", 275-pound Oliver Miller, who has been in and out of the Paul Westphal doghouse. has come on. Marv Albert, John Andres from the America West Arena in Phoenix. The Knicks 25, the Suns 21 as we approach 2 minutes remaining in this first quarter. Charles Smith felt he was jostled from behind by Tom Chambers. Here's Barkley going all the way. And the Knicks now lead by 2. We just checked with the official, Ed T. Rush, and he said that Westfall was not hit with the technical. It was the assistant coach, Scotty Robertson, who then was ejected. So it was Robertson hit with the tee. Ewing off balance.
Patrick is really on that shot these days. He got jostled, but it didn't affect it.
10 points for Ewing. And the Knicks lead by 4. Danny Ainge being guarded by Hubert Davis. Chambers with the step. The basket counts and the foul. The foul committed by Charles Smith.
Well, if you're Charles Smith, you're saying to yourself, what am I, back in high school? I didn't even touch the guy. Let's take another look at it now. Nice move, though, by Chambers. Off that pick, that little bump. Boy, that looked like air between Smith and Chambers. But that pick was helpful to Tom. It gave him that little half step on Charles.
And now Charles Oakley getting set to return. That foul on Smith, his second. Oakley at the table. The Knicks by 1. Doc Rivers being pressured by Kevin Johnson and tied up. Rivers lost his balance, and Johnson was right on the ball.
This is an opportunistic player. Kevin Johnson's a tough guy. He was all over Doc.
The Knicks through the season have been vulnerable to pressure defense. See the combination of Ceballos and Barkley combining for 8 out of 10. And Kevin Johnson is one who from time to time will go to pressure, and that could be a factor here tonight. In particular with Doc Rivers, the only genuine point guard, and even Doc is not considered to be a true point guard. Greg Anthony still out of the lineup, and behind Doc, the Knicks have to go with Starks and Davis.
Kevin Johnson represents the best point guards in the NBA, and there he demonstrates why. He's had injury problems throughout the season, but he's on his game now. He's tough. Tough as they come.
Suns by 1. They double up on Ewing. Ainge over to help. And a foul call. It's against Phoenix. Foul called on Miller.
And Mark, we've had quite a display of fan participation the last 2 road games. And this reminds me of a great deal of Cleveland. The fans are so active in all the calls. Really makes a great setting for a game, boy. No daydreaming here.
The Knicks and the Suns are tied at 28. 50 seconds remaining in this first quarter, and Patrick Ewing continues his recent pattern, getting off strong in the early going. 12 points for Patrick, 4 out of 7 from the field, 4 for 4 from the line. Knicks by 1. Here's Johnson setting up Barkley for a 3-pointer. Rebounded by Oakley. 3-point shooting is not one of the strong points in the all-around game of Charles Barkley. Down to 25 seconds left in the quarter. 10 on the shot clock. Rivers. Rebound Oakley. Charles Oakley, who made contact with Oliver Miller, who took a shot in the nose and then faded away from the play, which I don't think will be appreciated. He was more concerned about rubbing his nose, and then Oakley was able to hit.
Oliver, you're big. Play big.
Johnson trying to save it. It'll be Nick Ball with 3/10 of a second left in this opening quarter. The Knicks lead by 3. And after 1, it's the Knicks 31, the Suns 28.
New York Knicks basketball is brought to you in part by Reebok, who reminds you that life is short. Play hard. By Nissan, it's time to expect more from a car. And by Mobil Super Unleaded Plus. Drive your engine clean with Mobil Super Unleaded Plus, the detergent gasoline.
A real winner knows how to party right. Please use good sense when you drink and know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser. Well, Patrick Ewing picking it up now in the first quarter. The Knicks getting off to a good start now for the third straight game against quality. How about that running one-hander by Ewing? He didn't let the interference distract him. And over the last 9 games, Patrick Ewing has led the Knicks quite well. 30 points a game on the average, 59% from the field, and as a result, he has been named the NBA Player of last week.
Good numbers for Ewing. In the first quarter, the Knicks 12 for 25 overall, 48%, while Phoenix 12 for 23 for 52% shooting. Barkley gets inside, and the Knicks now lead by 1.
I don't know whether Patrick Ewing is mesmerized by his experience on the Dream Team with Barkley, but he's not too interested in shoving Charles down when he gets around the basket or trying to block those shots.
Barkley has 13 points to lead the Suns. Here is Ewing. Yes. Patrick Ewing on fire. He has 14 points, and the Knicks now lead 33-30. Barkley puts the move on Oakley, sets up Miller.
Good example of what happens when you go for head fakes. It just throws you off balance and leads to baskets like that.
Charles Barkley telling me earlier as Ewing gets that nice pass from Oakley that he does not look forward to the matchups with Charles Oakley. He says Oakley holds him all night. Of course, this is one point of view, but the way Charles Barkley has been playing with the spin moves, he has had his way to this point against Charles Oakley. Miller gets away with a travel.
Took a little while for the officials to buy that.
Slow call. And the traveling violation was made at center court by Ed Rush. No whistle at first. Knicks lead 35-32. Oliver Miller, a raw rookie out of Arkansas. He is the true round mound.
With the best round mound of all.
Although Barkley is trimmed down, you can't even refer to him as the round mound of rebound.
Well, that's a fading description of Charles Barkley.
Doc Rivers sits down, so the Knicks now with Hubert Davis and John Starks in the backcourt. Anthony Mason, Patrick Ewing, and Charles Oakley up front. Ainge handling against Davis. Chambers played by Mason. Now Barkley met by Oakley. Ainge for 3. And they continue to have their difficulties from long range.
He wasn't guarded at all on that shot.
Here's Starks. Oh, tough move by John Starks, and extends to a 5-point Knick lead.
The Knicks can drive the ball against this team. They do not have shot blocking, particularly with Mark West out of the game.
Chambers, the tip. Well, Chambers on the follow, able to tip it home. Knicks lead by 3.
That's the soft spot in this team that enjoys the best record in the NBA. They don't have big-time play in the middle.
On a switch, Starks guarded by Miller. Now Ewing with the fake. Puts the move on Miller. And the Knicks extend to a 39-34 lead. Patrick Ewing has 18 points.
Well, Patrick is all that the Phoenix Suns have anticipated. He's come in and delivered right away.
Marley, nice setup for Barkley. The Knicks 39, the Suns 36. And a 20-second timeout is called, and Pat Riley is upset.
He's on fire. He brought his team out in the court. They're away from the bench, and he's got a message, and boy, is he getting attention. The Knicks are trading baskets now. They're not paying attention on the defensive end. This is a defensive conversation. Little bump there by Charles Barkley. He got free. No communication between the Knicks on that play. Oakley checked out and no one checked in. Look at Oakley leaving. No rotation behind. The point is, Charles Oakley, don't leave Barkley open when you know no one is behind you to cover.
Even before Pat Riley started a scream at his players, Knick teammates were discussing it in heated fashion. They were upset about the last couple of times down from the defensive point of view. Davis with a crossover and penetrates. What a move by Hubert Davis. The Knicks lead 41-36.
I don't know how long Oliver Miller is going to be out there, but he is taking up no space when it comes to stopping driving by the Knicks.
Marley up front with Barkley, Miller, Chambers. Here's Miller. Four minutes gone by in the second quarter. Mason with a nice fake. And Barkley keeps the dribble alive. Leads Marley.
You know, it's nice what Barkley did. He dribbled that ball out in front of him. He pushed it out in front of him instinctively when he was trying to compete for that ball. And that was so well done.
The Knicks 41, the Suns 38. This game has been played at a blistering pace. Smith, played by Chambers. Yes, Charles Smith has 11. The Knicks 43, the Suns 38. This time Barkley played very well by Oakley, and no complaint right there. Hit a very difficult fadeaway shot.
Oakley resisted the fake nicely.
17 for Barkley. Mason. Oakley hit the floors. Barkley got position. Chambers fortunate that Marley was right there.
Knicks are really playing Marley and Ainge well, not giving him any room.
Starks with the fake.
What a box shot by Barkley. Oakley ended up off the court.
Ainge for three. Well, the Suns finally hit from downtown. This is a Phoenix club that is number one in the NBA in three-pointers made and attempted. Fifth in percentage from three-point land, but they've had their problems over the last 10 games.
That was a slip-up by the Knicks. He was unguarded.
Game tied at 43. Mason lost the dribble. Good play by Miller. Here's Miller behind the back to Marley. The Suns by 2. And the Knicks want to talk it over.
And Danny Ainge is the man. With that one, it just points out how tough this team is. Danny Ainge has made more three-point shots this year than the Knicks team has. And there you see it quite clearly. He's up by 2.
5:47 remaining. First half. The Suns 45 and the Knicks 43. A matchup of the two teams with the best records in the East and the West. Mason on the follow, and he's tied the game at 45. The Suns at 48 and 15. They lead the Pacific Division by 3.5 over Seattle. They have the best record in the NBA, while the Knicks at 45 and 18. One game in front of Chicago. Here is Marley. Now 1 out of 5 from downtown. Marley getting the pass for Sabonis, and he's fouled.
Here's the problem. On the shot by Marley, guarded by Charles Smith. Charles, after the shot, turned to run up court. What about Marley? Marley just sails right in for the offensive rebound that came to him. Charles Smith was looking for the fast break, looking to sneak down court. He got burned.
Patrick Ewing called for his second foul. And Cedric Sabonis to the free throw line. He's a 73% free throw shooter. He's averaging 11 points per game. Off to the fast start, 4 for 4 from the field in the first quarter. So the Suns lead by 2 points.
Cedric now in his third year, but all of the attention last year was on he is the slam dunk blindfold champion, but now he's being spoken about as a basketball player who's doing a great job as opposed to the slam dunk label.
Man who has has a knack for converting in traffic. I think he took another shot. Tough couple of minutes for Cedric.
John Starks is the missing ingredient in the Knicks offense so far.
Shot clock at 4. Smith. Marley with the rebound. Kevin Johnson for Tom Chambers. Rebounded by Anthony Mason. Rivers gets inside. Nice movement by the Knicks, led by Mason. Here's Chambers down in a hurry. Game is tied at 47. 4.5 remaining. First half. Marley. He thought he was fouled. Tony Campbell is getting set to come on for the first time. Now Mason posting off a double team. Mason won't count, says Ed Rush, foul on the play. It's on Ceballos. Tony Campbell replacing Charles Smith. Charles Barkley has checked back in. Kevin Ceballos will sit down.
Tony Campbell just now inbounding the ball. Didn't have much of a workout against the Suns in the first meeting. Only played 7 minutes, so he's looking forward to this.
Ewing. Just under 4 minutes to go in this first half. Marley is fouled. Foul committed by Campbell. Oh, check that. Smith called for the foul, his third. A look at the best records in the NBA. Phoenix on top, followed by the Knicks and Seattle, Chicago, and Houston. Houston Rockets have that 14-game win streak stopped and then dropped 2 in a row. They bounced back with a victory tonight, defeating Charlotte in Charlotte, 111-103.
Well, if this game is a look ahead, as some people feel, to the NBA Conference Finals, the NBA Championship Finals, the best record naturally is something that will determine home court advantage, and that's the meaning in many ways of a game like this between these two powerhouse clubs.
Suns with a 49-47 lead. They collapse on Ewing. Good pass to Campbell. And the game is tied at 49.
No shot blocking, no intimidation inside by the Phoenix Suns.
The Tony Campbell household has been festive recently. Tony's wife, Deborah, as Chambers hits, gave birth to the couple's third child this past Saturday. 6 3/4-pound boy named Aaron. Congratulations to Tony and Deborah Campbell. Mason to the reverse. Rebound snatched by Barkley.
What a rebound. Did he commit himself?
Marley behind the back through the foul. It's on Rivers.
Marley's going after Mason.
Marley had words with Mason, and Pat Riley rushing to center court. Ed Rush in a discussion with Riley. Looked like Mason got the tee. Let's see. Personal foul and a technical foul. Personal foul on Campbell and a technical foul called on Anthony Mason. With the timeout, we'll take a break for these words.
Dan Marley's not piling up the points now, but his toughness is always on display as Tom Chambers goes to shoot that technical called on Anthony Mason a moment ago. Take a look at this move now. How would you feel, Marv, if you were Marley, as Anthony Mason greeted you with a block? They had to talk about it a little. I applaud Marley for his restraint. a lot of guys would lose their cool real quickly. Of course, the presence of Anthony Mason may have something to do with that.
Man looks like he went through an 8-pounder earlier in the day. Here's Barkley.
Good move by Mason. He made him take the fall-away shot. You want Barkley going away from the basket, not toward it.
2.5 left in the first half, and the Suns with a 52-49 lead. Oh, nice fake. Threw the foul on Barkley. So Ewing will go to the line as Charles Barkley collects his second.
Doc Rivers is always looking to set up players, and he did on this move, which enabled the mismatch in favor of Ewing to occur.
This has been a terrific first half. It's been close throughout. Knicks have led by as many as 5. Phoenix with the 3-point lead a moment ago. That's their biggest lead.
Ewing enjoys the Phoenix Suns matchups because he goes to the line a lot. In their first meeting, he went to the line 14 times on his way to a 35-point evening.
Ewing has 26 of 6 from the line tonight. The Knicks trail by 1. Now Barkley guarded by Ewing. Illegal defense called on the Knicks for the first time.
Tony Campbell was not close enough to Danny Ainge, the man he was guarding, or to Dan Marley.
Rolando Blackman, Greg Anthony, sidelined tonight. Rolando with the sprained knee, sprained right ankle. He's been out since the 12th of February. Greg Anthony, sprained right ankle, called day to day. Could return against Utah Thursday, maybe against the Lakers Friday. Knicks not looking to force the issue. Pushing foul on Mason.
You know, it's interesting, Marv, when you think the success the Knicks have enjoyed lately, and yet it's with a backup to the starting guards. Rolando and Greg Anthony were the starting guards against the Phoenix Suns when the Knicks beat them in New York.
Minute 45 left in the half. Rivers pushing it ahead for Campbell. And Johnson with the steal. Here's Barkley. Suns lead by 3.
Kevin Johnson's a monster.
Barkley has 19. He's 8 for 13 from the field. He also has 9 rebounds. Campbell, Ewing, last touch. Let's see, the officials check it over. Last touch by the Suns.
Well, the crowd's reacting to Ewing signaled before the officials did. It looked like it went out off Patrick. And of course, the fans interpret this, and it does look like it goes out off Patrick. If you're a fan here, you'd think that's the case.
Suns by 3. Minute 10 remaining in this first half. It counts, and the foul. Foul committed by Campbell.
Also followed by the demonstrative nature of Charles Barkley, which the fans love here. Nice pass inside. Tough shot, and the touch.
Oliver Miller is back. Tom Chambers sitting down, and Chambers hears it from the crowd. Came off the bench, hit for 10 points. Barkley has been red hot. Completes the 3-point play as 22. With a minute remaining first half, the Suns have their biggest lead, a margin of 6. Miller switching off to Starks. Ewing is fouled. Marley picked up Ewing, trying to help out. And he committed the foul.
John Starks, 2 out of 7 now, 4 points here in the first half. Of course, Knicks fans are used to seeing John Starks sailing along with Patrick Ewing. Those two have been getting about 50% of the team's points, it seems, of late. John hasn't found a comfort zone in his shooting here in the first half. Does have 5 assists, though.
Ewing is 7 for 7 from the line. Tom Chambers back. Oliver Miller departing. Well, Charles Barkley, number 5 in scoring. Patrick Ewing, number 7. Michael Jordan leading the way, 32.6. So Ewing with 22 points. The Suns 57. The Knicks 53. 40 seconds to go in the half. Barkley feeling around for Mason. Again to the fadeaway. Rebound snatched by Marley.
That's just a great effort by Dan Marley. From full of people around him, he outgutted everybody.
Suns by 6. Kevin Johnson hanging around in the backcourt to bother Doc Rivers. And a foul on Rivers for pushing Johnson, who says yes, yes. And they're going head to head. Here comes Barkley.
I don't blame Doc Rivers. Who needed that? Totally unnecessary. Kevin Johnson made a great play. And then did he get Bush League? Did he open his mouth and get unnecessarily offensive? That doesn't characterize him. He's usually a class player.
And then Barkley came from behind.
Of course.
Collided with Rivers. Let's see how the officials handle this. Rivers was called for the foul for blocking out on Johnson, trying to keep him away from the inbounds.
And Doc Rivers, if anything, is a controlled athlete. He plays hard, as Kevin Johnson does, but you'd never see him react like that.
Discussion between Ed T. Rush, Steve Javie, Nolan Fine. Down to 24 seconds remaining in this first half. So Doc Rivers look to get some words in. Lionel Hollins, one of the assistant coaches, settled it down. A 22nd timeout has been called by the Suns. Here's another look at the play.
Boy, if I'm Doc Rivers, I assume I was fouled. He's unhappy, but then he turns around and he's got this big mouth coming at him on top of it.
And then Mason got involved. He shoved Johnson. You see Oliver Miller step in. Barkley came from behind. All right, technical fouls. Called on Rivers and Starks. Ainge and Johnson have been called for technical, so they offset. No free throws will be taken, but they are all called for technicals, and it's a total of 7 that have been called in this first half.
Look at Kevin Johnson still talking.
Whoa, Kevin Johnson just did avoid a backcourt violation. Kevin Johnson recently involved in a fight during practice with teammate Tim Kempton.
Yes, they went at it.
Which seemed uncharacteristic of Johnson. Johnson forcing the issue. Call for a charge.
Kevin, you blew your cool. Nice play by Rivers, staying with him because Johnson is tough with that ball.
Now Miller is back. Chambers leaves. 5 seconds left in the half. Phoenix leads by 6. Here comes Rivers. Oh, Johnson and Rivers in a collision. Oh, look out. Here comes Rivers after Johnson. We have a free-for-all. Johnson blindsided Rivers. Rivers went down, and this could become ugly.
It is ugly.
Tim Kempton is holding Anthony Mason. Knicks assistant coach Dick Harder was accidentally hit down. And Bo Kimball restraining Johnson.
Greg Anthony punched Kevin Johnson
while he was being held. Oh, that's awful. That is awful. And now Johnson diving on Anthony. Boy, this is one you will not see in the NBA. This is just awful.
Pat Riley's on the floor.
Pat Riley in the midst of it. Greg Anthony, though, took a shot at Kevin Johnson while he was being held.
trying to cool it down, but it's still not over.
Now it looks like they have settled matters.
And that's the end of the half.
Yes. Paul Westphal is trying to convince his team to walk off the floor. Looks like Pat Riley has succeeded. Pat Riley's pants have been ripped down the side. And now the officials are being guided back to their dressing room by a slew of security people, and the Suns are hearing it from the crowd. And I tell you, they're very fortunate that the crowd stayed controlled.
Well, we're also fortunate that this timing was such that the half ended. It got the Knicks to leave the floor.
You know, I would think Greg Anthony's feeling was, well, they throw me out, so what? I want to get a shot. But that was just awful. And, of course, we've seen Greg involved like this on other occasions during the season, but to hit a guy when he's being held, come on.
The fines are going to be massive.
All right, we'll take a break right here. The Suns 59 and the Knicks 53. In Phoenix, where at halftime the Suns lead 59-53. It was a very feisty first half. The score is not the story. This is.
Doc Rivers was met by Kevin Johnson and decided he reacted. That's the second time that Johnson was overly aggressive, to say the least, in the direction of Doc Rivers, not to mention the mouthing off, and then that just set it off. Doc Rivers, a control guy, as I mentioned earlier, has been forced to lose it. How much can you take from an opponent? And he lost it. And, of course, everyone from both benches left, and this thing got out of control. Greg Anthony, off the bench, an injured player, decided to throw a punch in the middle of all this.
See Anthony right in the center in the sports shirt, but he decided to throw a punch while Kevin Johnson was being held.
Meanwhile, Pat Riley's in the middle of that melee on the floor,
and he had his trousers ripped in the process.
This is the worst possible outcome of a highly competitive, terrific game.
All right, back to the wrestling match between Johnson and Anthony, and it was Dan Marley who cut off Rivers. He got involved early, but the guys under control, like Barkley and, as it turns out, Oakley, did not throw punches. They were just looking to try to get involved because their teammates were involved, but the officials now will have the pressure on them as to how they will handle this. Ed T. Rush, Steve Jabby, Nolan Fine will come up with their decision when we return for the second half. Right now, though, we'll go to Bob Page in New York.
All right, Marv. Good evening again, everybody. After being humiliated at home here in New York on Sunday by the Knicks, San Antonio proved that that was no fluke when they journeyed to Cleveland tonight and were absolutely humiliated by the Cavaliers. The Spurs, slumping since the All-Star break, were hammered 127-90. Ouch. John Lucas and company down 6 going into the second quarter, where seldom-used Danny Ferry actually corrals a rebound. The bust from Duke to Hot Rod Williams to Craig Elo, who gets the hoop and the call. Cavs by 10 at intermission. Then they broke it open in the third quarter when they outscored the Spurs 39-22. Late third, Spurs turn it over. Mark Price running, dishes to Brad Daugherty for 2 of his game-high 25, like Ewing Sunday.
Explosives continued with the Phoenix Suns warming up when Greg Anthony accompanied the coaches onto the floor. He and Kevin Johnson had words once again. Gerard Mustoff, the one-time New York Knick, made a move toward the Knick bench, and he was ushered aside. Here's how it developed. You see Anthony now being ushered off by a couple of security people. He flipped the ball at one of the Suns right there, and Kevin Johnson once again tried to get at Greg Anthony, so it just continued on. Still no word on what the decision is. A look at the original confrontation off the inbound.
There was a foul called on Doc Rivers. He couldn't believe it. Now Kevin Johnson is mouthing off big time at Rivers. And that certainly provoked things. It was a very controversial call in the eyes of Doc Rivers. made by one of the top officials in the NBA, Ed Rush. That led to technical fouls, series of them. Kevin Johnson was one of them also who got the technical foul.
All right, John Starks has been ejected along with Doc Rivers and Anthony Mason. And for the Phoenix Suns,
disagreement here, Kevin Johnson and the coach. Paul Westphal, look at this. This guy's wild.
He has been ejected, we're told, as has Danny Ainge. Paul Westphal trying to calm Kevin Johnson down. Here's the announcement. Let's pick it up. Watch the reaction.
John Starks, Doc Rivers, Anthony Mason, and Greg Anthony. For Phoenix, Kevin Johnson and Danny Ainge. The first 2 technical fouls to each team cancel out. The Suns will shoot 2 technical free throws.
All right, the Suns will shoot 2 technical fouls because 4 Knicks were ejected, including Greg Anthony, along with Starks, Rivers, and Mason, Kevin Johnson, and Danny Ainge. So, 2 technical fouls will be taken by Tom Chambers. John, as we look back to the games we have covered over the years, and we have seen NBA basketball for a long time, this would have to rank as one of the more bizarre and wild episodes. I think back to Willis Reed at Madison Square Garden against the Los Angeles Lakers, when he was held from behind and then broke berserk in throwing punches.
He broke Rudy LaRusso's jaw. I remember being at the game.
At least in this situation, although it could have gotten even worse, could have gotten even more out of hand, there were no solid punches landed.
Barb, I know it may sound like a hometown touch here, but to me, Kevin Johnson provoked all this trouble with his mouth and then with his actions in that final contact, unnecessary contact on Doc Rivers. Now you see Rivers coming up the court. He'll be met by Kevin Johnson hard. I mean, that's a blocking play. He was moving forward into Rivers. He wanted to cream him, and that came on the heels of the last play, which resulted in technical fouls.
Well, the NBA's Vice President of Operations, Rod Thorne, will be spending many hours this evening trying to figure out what the penalties will be, and there will be some stiff ones. Meanwhile, Miguel Knight, who had not played at all in the first half, has checked in. Mark West missed the stop. Here's West again, and he's fouled. Foul called on Charles Oakley. So the ejection list for the Knicks: Mason, Rivers, Starks, and Anthony. You talk about Kevin Johnson provoking it, but Greg Anthony is going to be hit hard too. Scotty Robertson, assistant coach, thrown out early. Kevin Johnson, Danny Ainge are gone. So Miguel Knight is in the lineup for the first time this evening. The Suns with a 61-53 lead.
Greg Anthony had no business doing what he did. He was not a participant in the game. He's an injured player, and I can't believe he made any friends with his teammates. I don't know what he proved by his actions.
9-point Phoenix lead. It's their biggest lead of the game as this third quarter gets underway. And the Knicks opening up with Charles Smith, Charles Oakley, Tony Campbell, Patrick Ewing, and Hubert Davis. A very sparse-looking Knick bench, what with the departure of 4 people. Now Ewing puts the move on West. And it's rebounded by West. Here's Ceballos. He's called for a charging foul.
This turn of events will have a very big effect on the officials. You know they're going to call things tightly now. And what a challenge this is to Pat Riley and his team with the 3 players he has on the bench.
Also, John, I would think the psyche of the Phoenix Suns going into a game like this, last touch by Campbell, and that the Knicks have the reputation of being the bad guys. I'm sure they're saying to themselves, we're not taking anything when we go up against the Knicks. Who do they think they are coming in with that kind of physical reputation? But in this case, A couple of unlikely people got involved in Kevin Johnson and Doc Rivers. Barkley on a turnaround, and the Suns have pulled away to an 11-point lead.
Charles took pleasure in delivering a message to the Knicks bench as he ran up court.
Foul on Knight. Now check that. Frank Johnson called for the foul. And Tom Chambers now checks back in.
Charles Barkley on that nice turnaround with a little message to the Knicks bench.
Minute and 20 gone by in this third quarter, and the Knicks are down by 11. Here's Smith. Yes. 9-point Phoenix lead. Frank Johnson in his 9th year out of Wake Forest. Played in Europe for a couple of seasons. One time Washington Bullet. Spent a year with Houston. Here's Smith. And Chambers with the rebound.
Meantime, with all this confusion, the Suns are enjoying a 9-point lead. That's a big number the way this game has been played.
Foul committed by Davis. Pat Riley ended up in the midst of that pileup, and I think the pants have been repaired.
Pat comes prepared for everything.
Barkley. Davis played by Johnson. Crowd looking for a travel.
I think the officials should call a technical foul on the crowd. You know, they're getting in the way.
And a traveling violation called. And the Knicks have started in very shaky fashion here in the third quarter.
All right, Tony, don't worry. There's no one to put in behind you, so you can make another mistake. Pat Riley's going to stay with you.
All right, Starks, Rivers, Mason, all gone. Greg Anthony, who was in civilian clothes, is out. Here's West, stopped again by Ewing.
Oh, spectacular block by Ewing. He was muscled out, and he retreated back into the play.
Fourth block for Ewing. Again, the crowd wanted to travel. Knicks off here in the early going in the third quarter. It'll be Phoenix ball.
Boy, what a test of will by the Knicks. You know, talk about feeling like you're in the Roman Coliseum. Everything going against you. A third of your teammates have been ejected. Ewing, after being muscled out by West, made a terrific recovery for that block. But what a test of heart for the Knicks to follow now.
And Pat Riley going to Bo Kimball in just a moment. Early entrance for Bo with the bench stripped by the ejections. I mean, going into tonight's game, the Knicks without their usual starting point guard, Greg Anthony, and now Hubert Davis is operating as the lone point guard on the roster.
Nice block by Charles Smith.
Here's Campbell. Rebounded by Smith. Campbell with the fake, and he was fouled. Tom Chambers called for the foul. Bo Kimball getting set to come on. This is the first meaningful playing time for Bo Kimball. He comes on for Tony Campbell. For Kimball, it is only his 8th game, but usually was used in final minutes. Looking for instant offense. Pat Riley going to the bench for Kimball. The Knicks are down by 9. Barkley with the save, and Smith saves it to Marley. It counts, and the foul.
And that's the danger of making a save around the opponent's basket unless you know what you're doing with the ball. Fine recovery by Barkley. Charles Smith with a good recovery, no question about it. Good effort by him, but no thought behind it.
Knicks trying to call for a timeout. Now they get the official word as you take another look at the drive by Dan Marley through the foul. He will go to the line when we come back. The Knicks take on the Jazz Thursday, on to the LA Lakers on Friday. You can see the security people behind the Knick bench for precautionary reasons.
But there's no one there.
That's right. Very sparse looking Knick bench. The Knicks are now down 67-55. Bo Kimball operating at the shooting guard position. Patrick Ewing, 10-point Phoenix lead. So Ewing has 24.
Nice look by Charles Smith. Feels funny talking about basketball, doesn't it?
Hawley off the nice lead from Barkley.
Well, Kimball not used to that kind of matchup. He got suckered in by Marley coming up and then going back door, getting a beautiful lead pass.
Suns by 12. Davis with the fake, pushes it back out for Ewing. Marley pushed by Kimball. Orlando Blackman also involved in some of the verbal warfare earlier with Kevin Johnson as the Suns were warming up at the start of the third quarter. Johnson was screaming over at the Knicks bench. And then Rolando, another guy who really gets involved.
But Kevin Johnson, was just so out of control.
Frank Johnson with his first field goal. Well, we saw Kevin Johnson arguing with his coach, Paul Westphal, but that in the heat of the action was just upset. Frank Johnson with the steal. Marley for Barkley. It counts and the foul.
I can really see how you can grow to hate the Phoenix Suns if you're an opponent playing here. Just thinking as a fan, you know, nice play here by, look at the strength of Charles. Now watch his reaction. Hubert Davis lost that ball to Frank Johnson. Let a look at that beautiful bounce pass. Barkley was rocked, and he had the strength to make the shot and then become a jerk.
John, you're getting out of control here.
I mean, I just think
this is all part of home court environment. Phoenix Suns are not a club that usually gets involved in fisticuffs. If any team has the reputation, it's the Knicks, but in this case it was Kevin Johnson.
I think the adolescent Charles Barkley then lays it on, so
that's
it's all but done. That's all
part of the act. Suns lead 74-57. Frank Johnson, pass intended for Mark West, and they'll jump it up. Bo Kimball tying it up along with West and Marley.
Boy, Bo's getting a surprise. It's a good test for his conditioning now. Surprise in the sense that he's in a very hard-fought part of a game.
Bo Kimball played briefly against the Spurs Sunday, 4 minutes down the stretch. On the season prior to tonight, only 7 games. Here's Chambers off the tip, rejected by Smith. Charles Smith, Suns 74, the Knicks 59 with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. It's a game that has seen a total of 12 technical fouls handed out by the officials, capped off by the melee, the 24-second violation that took place at the end of the first half. It led to the ejection of 4 Knicks. One of the Knicks, Greg Anthony, who was very much involved, was not dressed for tonight's game, but the Knicks have lost John Starks, Doc Rivers, Anthony Mason, while Phoenix lost Kevin Johnson and Danny Ainge. As you can see, since the ejection, the Suns have outscored the Knicks 15-6 and have taken a 74-59 lead.
There have been so many fines in the NBA this year with flagrant fouls. It'll be interesting to see how Rod Cohen rules on this one. And will Kevin Johnson be judged as a provocateur of this? Remember, when you're having good times with friends, use good sense and drink responsibly, because friends know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser.
Suns with the ball, lead by 15 in what has been a wild night in Phoenix. Barkley with the spin, played well by Smith. And the call, last touch by Ewing.
Yes, Charles did play him well, and Barkley insisted on taking that shot, which turned out to be a wild one.
John, I think back to what we saw at the end of the first half, and I would think for long-time viewers of the NBA brings back memories of the earlier NBA days, games between us. Marley is able to bank it home. Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. We had Al McGuire battling with the likes of Bob Cousy and Bill Sharman.
Jim Loskakov, throw him in there.
Bob Branham and Syracuse Nats games with the New York Knicks. Bo Kimball able to hit. A host of brawls took place in those days. You rarely see what took place here tonight, although, as we mentioned earlier, very fortunately that there were no punches landed flush. A lot of pushing and shoving. Marley with a three.
This matchup with Bo Kimball on Marley means Marley's going to town. That's his second straight field goal. Kimball got his own jump shot a minute ago, so the best he can do is keep up with Marley somewhat, but Marley looks like he really wants the ball.
And here's Kimball with a three-point attempt.
Marley didn't even make an attempt to wave his hand at him.
Now Frank Johnson running the team in the absence of Kevin Johnson. Barkley. And Charles Barkley making motions in the direction of the Knicks bench as the Suns have taken a 20-point lead and a 20-second timeout called by the Knicks.
Well, Pat Riley's heated, as you can see. We'll take a look at this very tough move. Barkley at 6'5" with that fadeaway, beautifully done. Then he's helping Pat Riley call a timeout now, I think. Always willing to be helpful.
The Suns by 20 as they have taken over here in the third quarter. Knicks going now with Oakley, Ewing, Campbell, up front Kimball and Davis in the backcourt. Phoenix 8 for 16 from the floor in the third. Knicks only 4 of 12. The Knicks going with the rookie Hubert Davis at point guard. And it's picked off by Miller.
The rest of this game, it would appear, Marv, is misery for Pat Riley. Unless his bench players or what's left of it can rise to proportions he hasn't seen this year.
Oakley on the foul. Very tough to rise with what is left on the squad. We are now looking at a Knicks bench that includes Charles Smith, Herb Williams, Eric Anderson.
Our Midas bench breakdown focuses on an unusual aspect of bench effect on the game tonight, and that is who is on the bench, not what the bench is producing.
Barkley with 30 points.
There is not a guard sitting on the bench.
Well, Rolando's there, but
that's right.
In civvies. Just under 3 minutes remaining in the third quarter. The Knicks with that 9-game win streak on the line as Hubert Davis converts. And the Phoenix Suns coming off a loss to Indiana here at home. They have dropped 2 of the last 4, both of those losses here in Phoenix. Marley was pushed.
Marley is not noticing Bo Kimball on defense. He's cutting, he's moving, he's getting the ball. He's the focus of the team's offense.
Now, Dan Marley is an outstanding player, but when you look at the all-around game of Bo Kimble, and this goes back to his days with the LA Clippers, one of the questions about Kimble was the defensive end of the court, and he has been taken to school here by this man.
Marley's about 2 inches taller, strong, and a two-time All-Star. He's having a sensational season.
85-63 Phoenix.
Chance for Tony Campbell to show some of his skills as a guard, which is how the Knicks have considered him, at any rate on paper, when need be.
All right, Campbell with the rebound. 85-65. The Suns with the big lead. Down to 2 minutes remaining in the third. Oh, nice pass for Miller. Johnson finding Miller.
Tough situation now, obviously, with the focus of the game on what has already happened as opposed to what's going to happen, and just tough gut check for the Knicks now.
Well, Bo Kimble keeps firing away. He is 1 out of 4. That's the reason he's in there, for some offense, but has not been able to hit. Barkley. And it will be Nick Ball.
I don't hear air ball from the fans. They chose to ignore Charles's air ball.
(87-65) Phoenix with the lead. They have taken the play away here in the third quarter. Ewing has been very quiet after the outstanding first half.
Charles Oakley has lost his zest for offense, it seems, throughout much of this game. He is not looking to put himself in position to receive the ball to shoot it. Kind of just out there concentrating on Barkley.
And Marley goes to work on Kimble. And a foul is called.
Bo's got to play him a little physically, and that seemed like a very sensitive call against Bo Kimble on Marley.
Dan Marley is 5 out of 5 from the line. Dan in his 5th year out of Central Michigan. Tom Chambers replacing Charles Barkley. 31 points, 10 rebounds for Barkley. And Marley no longer regarded as a 6th man. In fact, the best 6th man in the Western Conference. Now a starter with Jeff Hornacek going over to Philadelphia in the trade for Charles Barkley.
Only Marley and Mark West have started every game for the Suns this year.
Kimble hits a 3. So Bo Kimble from downtown, that is his 2nd three-pointer as a Knick. Suns 89, the Knicks 68, 20 seconds remaining in the third. Miller. Ewing with the rebound. Here's Campbell on the move. Suns lead 89-70. Down to 5 seconds in the quarter. Chambers for 3. 1 and 2/10 seconds remaining. Kimble pops it. After 3 here in Phoenix. The Suns 92, the Knicks 70.
At Nike, who encourage you to just do it. By Toyota, reminding you to always buckle up. Do it for those who love you. And by AT&T, proud sponsor of the NBA and the New York Knicks.
In the third quarter, the Suns outscored the Knicks 33-17, and they've jumped to a 22-point lead. For those who may have tuned in late, this one got out of hand in the final seconds of the second quarter.
That was stage 2 of contact between Rivers and Kevin Johnson. And Rivers, who felt he had been done wrong on the last call, lost control. Another look at it. Kevin Johnson throwing a body block at Doc Rivers, and Rivers responded, and that opened up a wild melee between both teams.
In all, 12 technical fouls have been called in the game. That is called Suns ball. Greg Anthony, as we flash back, being ushered aside by Nick Fred and Mike Saunders, as he was told to leave, ejected right before the start of the third quarter.
Greg had left the bench and started throwing punches, which led to his ultimate ejection.
As a result, the Knicks have had to stay with the inexperienced point guard, Hubert Davis. Bo Kimball seeing much action here in the second half. Kimball around Marley, sets up Oakley, and it was last touched by the Suns. It will be Nick Ball.
Nicely set up. Nice job by Kimball setting up Charles. He couldn't make anything of it.
Knicks have 5 on the 24. Kimball. So Bo Kimball now 2 of 7 from the field. High Point men Charles Barkley, 31. Patrick Ewing with 24, but very quiet in the third quarter. West for Sabanos. Patrick Ewing with only 2 of his 24 in the second half. 1 for 6 from the field in the second half.
Herb Williams getting ready to come in now.
Rebound Oakley. Kimball for 3. Now West backing. 5 on the 24. Here's West.
Nice move by West. He eluded Charles Oakley.
26-point lead for the Phoenix Suns. Campbell bottled up. And the foul called. Here's Herb Williams. West on the foul. Williams and Smith replace Ewing and Oakley.
Looks like Patrick Ewing goes out, a very tired player. And a long night for he and Charles Oakley. Ewing carried this team offensively in the first half.
Ewing playing most of the way. Sits down with 24 points.
Think of it, Marv. John Starks was invisible tonight compared to what Knicks fans and Pat Riley has seen of John Starks in the last several weeks.
Strong move by Kimball. Suns 96 and the Knicks 72. 7 points for Bo Kimball. West set up by Johnson. Phoenix leads 98-72.
Tough move by Mark West. He hangs in the air that little second and then can dish that ball into the hole quite nicely.
3 minutes gone by in the fourth quarter. The Suns blowing out the Knicks. Charles Smith. And the Suns now lead 98-74, or I should say what is left of the New York Knicks. One with the ejections of Starks, Rivers, and Mason. Phoenix losing Kevin Johnson, Danny Ainge in the process. Campbell with the steal. Here's Kimball from Campbell. Rebound Williams, and he's fouled by Chambers. It's rare to see Paul Westphal standing up in front of the bench. One of the few coaches who spends most of the game sitting down. I asked him about it prior to the game. He said because of the bad knees.
Really?
So he may not be that calm, John. He's just protecting the knees. He says he has to sit. Once in a while he will stand. A fact for the night for you.
With the way this game has gone, that might straight up there is one of the better facts of the top 5, certainly.
And Charles Barkley has had himself an enjoyable night. 12 for 21, 31 points, 10 rebounds.
Well, the Phoenix Suns had something to prove tonight facing the Knicks, that they got accused of letting that Indiana game go by the other night. 2 nights ago, that was big news here in Phoenix. They were accused of getting ready for the Knicks and not the Indiana Pacers, who surprised them with a 1-point win.
Alan Smith. One of those games, though, now the Knicks will see their 9-game win streak stopped, and they have won 20 of the last 23 coming in, as West is able to hit. But they can wipe it aside because there are unusual circumstances here. It's not as if the full complement of Suns went up against the full complement of the Knicks. Should these two clubs meet down the road in the finals, coming off this game, you can imagine the anticipation as Herb Williams is able to hit.
You know, Marv, teams get reputation sometimes because of an individual or maybe two. Knicks have gotten their rough reputation basically because of Oakley and Anthony Mason and to some degree John Starks. That's 3 out of 12. Tonight's game, I think the direction this took is because of Kevin Johnson, period. This game was a terrific game until he opened his mouth up after a call that went in his direction.
All right, Campbell. Well, it was Johnson who got it going by reacting to the call that went against Doc Rivers. That started it all a couple of minutes before what took place at the end of the first half. Timeout taken. We'll be right back. 81. We mentioned the Knicks going on to play the Utah Jazz, LA Lakers, Golden State Warriors. Tomorrow, the Suns play the Lakers in LA, then home for Milwaukee. Here's Chambers. Suns lead 104-81, and Charles makes his return to Philadelphia on Sunday against the Sixers. It sounds like something that Charles will enjoy. Here's Herb Williams on the turnaround, and Barkley fires it down to Ceballos. Oh, nice catch, and that's a gorgeous play. He thought he was fouled. Cedric Ceballos looking like a wide receiver going out for a deep pass route. Tony Campbell, Phoenix 106, and the Knicks 83. And so the Knicks, who have handed out a couple of blowouts in their last 2 games, are now at the wrong end of the extensive garbage time with 5:20 remaining in the game. Chambers is fouled. Campbell picks it up.
Interesting stats for the third quarter foul shooting. The Suns, the home team Suns, 11 of 12 from the line. The Knicks did not go to the line in the third quarter.
Pat Riley with some words in the direction of Steve Javie. Get the idea Pat may be looking for a tee here. Very upset.
Yeah, you could see that, but I could also see where he doesn't want to make himself the focus here as his team is out of this game. I'll tell you, it's been a long time since Pat Riley's been on all fours in a basketball game as he was at the end of the first half. He was right in the middle of all of that, as was Dick Carter.
Mark West receiving an ovation.
What did I miss, Marv? What did Mark West do to, let's see what the numbers are to deserve this?
A decent game, 12 points, 5 rebounds, but I think the crowd overreacting, as you indicate. Hey, nice place to play.
Well,
They love their Phoenix Suns.
It is generally acknowledged to be the most beautiful arena in the NBA, that's for sure.
And I know you took a tour earlier.
Very nice of Jerry Colangelo, who makes all the big decisions around here to take Mike Green and I around the place. Beautiful, beautiful arena.
Nice move by Hubert Davis. The Suns with a 108-85 lead. This arena unveiled this season. The Suns had played at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum since the inception of the franchise back in 1965. Miller gets to it. Phoenix gets a new 24. Frank Johnson rejected by Charles Smith. Good play by Charles.
Charles has done a nice job tonight in that department for the Knicks.
Here's Barkley for three. Knicks with 9 blocks in all for the game. Charles with 2. And a foul is called. Don Davis. There's the president of the Phoenix Suns, Jerry Colangelo.
Jerry telling me before the game as he took us on that tour, Marv, of his days in Chicago where he grew up and walking around the old Chicago Stadium, which still exists. Oliver Miller powering his way inside, 6'9", 290. 290 in this corner. But Jerry said someday all those memories of the old Chicago Stadium burned in his mind when they designed this place, and he was involved in every decision made.
Kimball going to his left. Herb Williams not able to follow. Well, Eric Anderson will check in just a moment, so Pat Riley will have used the entire arsenal. And I see Tim Kempton getting set to make an appearance. Oh, Kimball. So Bo has 9 points. 22nd timeout taken by the Suns. 3:24 remaining in the game. And this program is authorized by Madison Square Garden Productions, Incorporated, solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publications, rebroadcast, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this event without the express written consent of Madison Square Garden Productions, Incorporated is prohibited. And a look at the New York Knicks yearbook that has just been released, featuring a special section celebrating the 20th anniversary of the 72-73 New York Knicks, and it is available by mail. Send $10, $8 for the yearbook, $2 to cover postage and handling to Knicks Yearbook, 2 Penn Plaza, New York, 10121. Well done publication. The New York Knicks Yearbook.
I think anyone who's ever had a Knicks publication, what a beautiful move after Eric Anderson block. Anyone who's ever seen a Knicks publication will feel, I say this in confidence, that this is the best put together book that the Knicks organization has put out thus far.
High praise from Johnny Hoops. The reverse for Cedric Ceballos.
I drifted into a home team announcer tonight, Marv. Why stop?
Now, it was extremely nicely done by the staff, headed by John Cirillo and Dennis D'Agostino. Full color commemorative edition, including articles on all Knicks players and coaches. A couple of nice shots of you, John, that I have kind of cut out and put on the wall.
Thanks to George Galinsky's good eye.
Timeout has been called with 2:36 remaining in the game.
New York Knicks basketball is brought to you in part by the Discover Card. It pays to discover the card that pays you back.
A Toyota matchup of the evening. This very active evening. The two power forwards, Charles Barkley winning that matchup quite clearly. 31 points, 11 rebounds. Charles Oakley, 4 points, 10 rebounds. Charles was not offensive this evening. Charles Oakley, that is.
Ricky Henderson and Ruben Sierra. Oh, nice move there. The trouble with the step activity. Filing out with the rest of the crowd.
This is the world of spring training for the Major League Baseball teams.
Oakland A's training nearby. So the Suns with a blowout of the Knicks. 112-88 the score. We're down to 2.5 minutes remaining. And the Knicks 9-game win streak will come to a close. Phoenix will go to 49-15, maintaining the best record in the league. Ceballos to the free throw line. But a game that will be remembered for the full-scale brawl that took place at the end of the first half. The end result, John Starks, Anthony Mason, Doc Rivers, and Greg Anthony was on the bench in street clothes, all ejected. Anthony, along with Kevin Johnson, certainly responsible for this getting out of hand, and Kevin Johnson and Danny Ainge also were ejected, and all 12 technical fouls handed out in tonight's game. Started mildly with Phoenix Suns assistant Scotty Robertson getting a quick thumb early. Eric Anderson guarded by Tim Kempton. Anderson firing the line drive hook. Here's Johnson for Knight. Miguel Knight giving the Suns a 116-88 lead. 1:45 remaining in the game. Here's Davis. And the foul on Kimball. Crowd reacts. And Bo not helping Frank Johnson up.
Bo getting a little macho.
And Bo's lack of reaction is what has annoyed a couple of Phoenix Suns players.
Very physical play by Bo Kimball. It wouldn't be unjustified of him to help the guy up, but he chose not to.
I think with what took place earlier, extending some sportsmanship might not have been appreciated by some of his teammates, and I think Bo chose not to go that direction.
You're right.
Minute and a half remaining in the game. The Suns in a rout, pulling away in the second half. Anderson for Williams. Suns 118, the Knicks 90.
Would you say this has been the most insignificant fourth quarter of the year for the Knicks, Marv?
Yes.
It's a downer.
There's Kempton. And it's put home by Ceballos. It is a 30-point lead. The worst defeat suffered by the Knicks this year. A 28-point deficit February 21st against Detroit, 108-80. Ceballos with the rebound, down to 45 seconds remaining. Davis knocks it away. But this capacity crowd of better than 19,000 enjoying what they have seen here tonight. And the post-game comments from the likes of foul on Kimball, from the likes of Kevin Johnson and Danny Ainge and Doc Rivers, Greg Anthony, will be interesting.
And the post-game reaction by the NBA front office will be interesting. There could be some records, financial records set. A lot of fines. Big money is going to come out of this game as a result of the fines.
Tim Kempton has not seen much action with the Phoenix Suns this season.
Always enjoy mentioning his parents. His father, I know, played against him in high school, Vince Kempton. You know he's tuned in tonight. His mom, a police officer in New York. He got into the tussle, as you mentioned, Marv, earlier with teammate Kevin Johnson recently in practice. Kevin Johnson takes on all comers.
Yes, he's had some involvements in the past. Magic Johnson and Kevin Johnson, another unlikely battle. Kimball putting it home. Kevin got into it with Isaiah Thomas recently. Down to 10 seconds remaining in the game. And they are on their feet. Standing ovation for the Phoenix Suns. 5 and 8/10 seconds to go. So the Knicks win streak is over at 9. And that will do it. For the Knicks, it is their worst defeat of the season. They are beaten by the score of 121-92. We'll be back with the recap from Phoenix after these messages.